Elon Musk. He's a brilliant guy. Every time I call him, he's talking about, I got a new idea for a rocket. You have to hear this. No, it's true. You know, the first time I ever saw this, I'm watching television like 3 years ago, and I see a rocket engine, motor engine, come down landing, straight up in, no wings, no nothing, and it's landing. I thought I was seeing things. What is that? And it's landing on a barge in the middle of the ocean. And then another one comes down, and another one. I guess 4 of them came down, 3 or 4, and they land upright. I said, what the hell was that? I've never seen that before. Now, if that were government, you wouldn't see that for another 50 to 100 years. But it was Elon. Now, think of that. And I called him, and I've always had a good relationship with him, but I called him, and I said, what was that? He said, well, we saved the engines. We saved the engines because it's very expensive to build. So, I mean, it didn't take me long to figure that if you save them, that's good. But who the hell thought you could do that? No wings, no nothing, just like these big, long, massive tubes, and they're landing gently right on the dot. I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And you say, how long would it take government to come up with that one? I don't think they ever heard of it. Perhaps they still haven't heard of it. But, you know, he's a very advanced person, and he's doing other things that are great, and so are others. We have to make life good for our smart people, you know? We have some smart people. We have to make life good for our smart people. And he's as smart as you get. But Elon endorsed me the other day, and I didn't even know this. He didn't even tell me about it. But he gives me $45 million a month. A month. Not 45 million. Gives me 45 million a month. And I talked to him just a little while ago to say I was coming here, how you doing? And he didn't even mention it. He didn't mention. I mean, other guys, they give you $2 and you got to take them to lunch. You got to wine them, dine them. No, he's a great guy, he really is. But, you know, he's never mentioned to me, why are you hitting the electric cars? Because he understands I'm not hitting it. I think it's incredible. I've had them. I've driven them. They're incredible. But they're not for everybody. Some people have to drive long distances. And they tend to be more expensive. And, you know, they'll probably be made in China because China has all of that material.
Do you still donate $45 million? I'm sorry.
At no point did I say that I was donating $45 million a month to Trump. That was a fiction made up by the Wall Street Journal.
So what do you expect to hear from Netanyahu today?
Is going to tell us about the state of Israel and Gaza. That's, I think, a safe guess.
Are you meeting with any lawmakers today?
There are lawmakers around here?
Will you be meeting with the Prime Minister?
Mr. Musk, are you still going to donate to Trump? Do you still donate $45 million? I'm sorry?
At no point did I say that I was donating $45 million a month to Trump. That was a fiction made up by the Wall Street Journal.
So what are you expecting to hear from Netanyahu today?
I assume he's going to tell us about the state of Israel and Gaza. That's, I think, a safe guess.
And I said, you know, Elon, remember, I love electric cars. I think your car is great. I love it. But it's not for everybody. And, you know, he never said to me, look, I'm going to endorse you, but, you know, you have to show. Because I think the electric car and I think the Tesla, I think it's incredible what they've done. But there are other reasons, like sometimes you want to drive long distances. You don't want to stop. You know, in the Midwest, someplace in the Midwest, they put up 8 charging stations. You know that, right? They spent $9 billion. Now, you know what a charging station is? It's like a gas pump. It's the equivalent of a gas pump for electricity, right? It's a little thing. They spend $9 billion. That would mean that if they did it throughout the country, all the locations designated, it would cost $5 trillion, so our country would have to file for bankruptcy. They would have to file bankruptcy protection to build church. The whole thing is crazy. They want everything to be all electric. But Elon's great. He endorsed me. He said, look, you got to say what you say. And I love the car. I think it's great. And some people love them and some people want them. But I think if you're going to go long distances, it's a little bit, you're challenged. You're challenged. The upcoming what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Elon Musk. So, yeah, sure. So Elon called me. As you know, he endorsed me full-throated. Great endorsement. I respect Elon a lot. He respects me. And not easy for him to endorse, to be honest with you. It takes courage to endorse people. Many people have courage and many people don't. He does have courage. And Elon endorsed me, and he asked me whether or not I'd do a show on Monday, and I think it's going to be Monday night. And I believe he's the host of the show. So it'll be very interesting. A lot of people are talking about it. I look forward to it. That'll be done on Monday night.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's an America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that? Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here, about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too. But look, it is. I think it is incredibly important to call that out as you're doing. I just don't have any specifics on what we have been doing internally as it relates to the interviews. Not something that I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president's not tracking it either. Go ahead, Jared.
Just curious about the Thursday event with the vice president. The president and vice president are doing. Can we expect, because that's an official event, that's a policy event.
Yep.
Can we expect to see more of those kind of joint administration events between the president and vice president?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But I think Thursday's announcement is going to be really important. You're right. It's about lowering cost for the American people. It really builds on what this president and the vice president has been trying to do over the last 3.5 years as it relates to the American people. Stay tuned. We certainly will have more to share about his schedule, their schedule together in the upcoming days and weeks.
I only ask because we haven't seen a lot of those sort of joint events. Usually they kind of branch out, flank out, and do those events separately. So what is the thinking?
I think there's been a couple of times over the 3.5 years that the president and the vice president have had joint events. And I think very early on, the first several months, I remember them going to Georgia together. Obviously, they went there for an awful event that happened on the ground, a shooting. But they have appeared together many times. I know when it comes to Roe v. Wade, for example, they've appeared together for that. And there's been other times as well. I would expect that will be continuing in the last several months of this administration. And remember, yes, they do their own events and they crisscross the country, but they're partners in this, and they'll continue to do just that. Okay.
And the election is called.
Do Democrats have any concern about Elon Musk's backing of Donald Trump, given that he owns a social network and his level of resources?
I think, as we saw with this interview this weekend, that there's a concern by many that were watching with things that were said, and it appears that Mr. Musk may have violated the own rules that he established at X, former Twitter. And in addition to that, just look at the letter that was sent from European partners about the rules that they established based on putting these falsehoods and these lies, these dangerous lies that can cause violence, up on the network as well. And that's kind of what we saw this weekend. So it's not a surprise to me. I'll leave it at that. The more that Elon Musk interviews the former president, the less that I have to talk about the previous president, because they're going to do all the talking for us, and they're going to share with the American people why the former president will not be president of the United States ever again.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Yes, please. I know you had your hand up. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for taking my question. You referenced your conversation with Elon Musk earlier this week. I want to ask you about that. You praised how he treats workers, saying they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone, so every one of you is gone. Are you really comfortable with companies threatening to fire workers who go on strike?
Well, no, I want companies to get workers that are going to love them and work for a wage that lets the company make a profit so they can go and expand. In that case, they moved, as you know, they moved the company from California, Elon, from California to Texas because they were able to get things that California wouldn't give. And I did ask him one question. You're moving a very big company out of California that's been there for years into Texas. Did the governor ever call you and say, like, let's work it out because we don't want to lose you? And he said he never called. Governor Newsom, he never called. And you would have thought, if I were governor of California and if Elon or anybody else, they have oil companies leaving, I would be calling. But no, Elon wants to run an efficient company, and if he has to he got rid of a lot of people on X or former Twitter. A lot of people gone, and it still works. It still works. So you got to run the company productively, and there are going to be a lot of jobs around. I want it so that a person doesn't get lucky and find a job. I want a person that can look for 10 jobs, and all 10 companies want them, and you negotiate much more than you'd get by doing what you just suggested. So, you know, he's a strong man. He's a strong guy. He's a brilliant guy. And he wants to get the best he can, and he wants to get the best workers. He pays a lot of money to a lot of his workers. It's, to a certain extent, supply and demand. But ultimately, that's what's going to lead to a great country. So,
just to follow up on that really quickly, because some people took that as you saying that you would be comfortable with companies threatening to fire workers. Sean O'Brien, who spoke at the Republican National Convention, saying that firing workers who are wanting to organize or striking is economic terrorism. So just to be clear, that's something that you are.
Well, that's not. Yeah, they weren't organizing against Elon. He let them go because he was having a lot of problems in California. They were making it impossible for him. In California, what they were doing with the taxes and everything were making it impossible for him. And Sean O'Brien's a great guy from the Teamsters you're talking. Yeah, Sean is great. I think Sean would understand it better than anybody. Don't forget, the unions are really threatened by what's coming in, by these millions and millions of people coming in. Sean O'Brien understands that. The black population is absolutely threatened. The Hispanic population is absolutely threatened. Because these people are coming in, they're going to take their jobs. They're going to make it very, very hard. What's happened in our country is very dangerous, very bad thing.
You know, you talk about like cars. I'm a big fan of Elon. Elon gave tremendous you have to send a rocket up to get those people out of there. It's crazy. You know, it's great. I said, what are you sending a rocket up? Well, you know, Elon is a very different kind of a guy. As he thinks, he talks. Whereas a lot of people, you know, they want the words to be perfect and all, and they think less and talk more. With Elon, it's like, well, you know, I'm doing a new stainless steel hub that can get us around the engines much quicker because there's a problem with the type of engine going into space nowadays. And I'm hearing that. But in the end, I think we can have a good hookup because of the new foils that are coming up. And I'm hearing everything that's going through his mind. But he's a super genius guy.
Oh, I loved that conversation that you had on Twitter. I listened to the whole thing. I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
I think we're going to do another one, too. They had a number. Like I heard 750 million. They had a number that was so crazy and large. And we had a good time. We talked for 2.5 hours. And, yeah, it was the number one ever. There's never been anything like it in terms of people listening or watching or whatever. But he's a great guy. But I said to him, you know, the one thing is that, and I'm a huge fan of his electric car. I think it's incredible, his car. I think what he does. And I'm a big fan of electric, but they don't go far. And they are expensive. And China does have the material. We have gasoline, more gasoline than anybody else. I call it liquid gold. We are liquid gold. But, and electric absolutely has a place. You know, you have electric, but you have to have gasoline-powered cars and hybrid-powered cars, and maybe hydrogen is going to be next, who knows? But, you know, the things that they're proposing.
Fourth, at the suggestion of Elon Musk, who has given me his complete and total endorsement. That's nice. Smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Very much appreciated. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. Need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting. If he has the time, it'd be a good one to do it, but he's agreed to do it. In 2022, fraud and improper payments alone cost taxpayers an estimated hundreds of billions of dollars. As the first order of business, this commission will develop an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. This will save trillions of dollars, trillions. It's massive. For the same service that you have right now, trillions of dollars is wasted and gone, and nobody knows where and what. Further taming inflation and bringing prices way down. The fifth pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent. And to cut taxes even more, and we will have no tax on tips, something which they copied 4 weeks after I said it. She got up and said, no tax on tips. I said, I just said that. But at the suggestion of Elon Musk, I will create a government efficiency commission to conduct a complete financial and performance audit for the entire federal government. And we will cut the fat out of our government for the first time meaningfully in 60 years. We're going to cut the fat. There is so much fat, you won't even know it's gone. Fifth, we will drain the government education swamp and stop the abuse of your taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate America's youth with all sorts of things that you don't want to have our youth hearing. Ultimately, we'll limit, and you know what we're doing here. I say it all the time. I'm dying to get back to do this. We will ultimately eliminate the federal Department of Education and send education back to Wisconsin and back to the states. We'll send it back to the states so that Ron Johnson can run it, okay? We'll send it back here. Mr. Tiffany, we'll get our Congressman Tiffany involved. He made a good speech, too. We're at the bottom of every single list in education. You know that. We're at the bottom of every single list. And yet we're number one in terms of cost per pupil. So, you know the expression I used once, twice, 3 times before, and it was very effective, actually. What the hell do we have to lose, right? We'll send our education back to the states. And, you know, some states will do a fantastic job. Some won't. And it's the same ones that are laggards right now. I don't want to name them because why would we want to embarrass Gavin Newsom and some of these people? Gavin Newsom. Why would we want to embarrass him? But that's, by the way, speaking of California, she destroyed, as you know, Kamala, destroyed the greatest city in America, San Francisco. She destroyed it, totally destroyed it. Then she became Attorney General of the state. She destroyed the state of California. Now she's running for president. We're not going to let that happen. 6, we will not tolerate so-called equity policies that punish Americans based on race or gender. America will return to the merit principle, which has just been approved by the Supreme Court of the United States. You work hard and you will be very successful. We're back to the merit The merit system, nobody thought that was ever even possible. We need merit. There's so many people that are left out in the cold, and that's not going to happen anymore. You work hard, you work diligently, you go to school, you do what you have to do, but it's based on merit. Again, you haven't heard that in many, many years. And seventh, working with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you know Bobby, RFK Jr., that was a meaningful endorsement. That was a great endorsement. We'll take on the corruption at the FDA, the CDC, World Health Organization, and other institutions of public health that have dominated and really are dominated by corporate power and dominated really by China. You know, the World Health Organization, they called COVID totally wrong. And I looked into it. We were paying them $500 million a year. China was paying them for $1.4 billion. We don't really know what we have because so many people have come into our country. We have no idea what we have. But let's assume we have 350 million, including 20 or 25 million criminal migrants, in many cases criminals. We have some of the worst people in the world coming into our country. Some of the worst criminals in the world are coming into our country. But we have 350 million people, let's say. They have 1.4 billion. They pay 39 million. We pay 500 million. Do you think that's a good deal? So I pulled out of it, and they came to me, and they wanted me to go back in. They wanted us to go back in, and I kept saying, no, I don't want to do it. And it became actually a very popular thing. I hate to say this, but politically, it was like people really liked it because they knew how we were abused by them. It's run by China. It's not run by us. We pay 500, and it's run by China, who pays 39 million. So they wanted to come back, and I said, well, how come China's paying 39 million? They have 1.4 billion people, and we're paying for a much smaller number of people. We're paying 500. We will make the same deal as we made with China. Well, I said, that would mean we'd be paying about 8 million, right? They said, no, we will make the same. We'll let you come in for 39 million. And you know what? I turned them down. Not for that. I turned them down for other reasons, and because they weren't good. And they were dominated by China. But Biden came in, this stupid person came in, and he approved $590 million. Now, he knew what was going on. He knew that, well, he probably didn't. He's really, do you think he knew? I don't think he knew. Do you think somebody said, sir, we can do it for 39? You know, it's not the biggest number when you're talking trillions all the time. But it's indicative of stupidity. Only bad is going to happen. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors who have been devastated by inflation. Our seniors have been devastated by inflation. We're going to have no tax on Social Security for our seniors. If any senior doesn't vote for Trump, we're going to have to send you to a psychiatrist to have your head examined. And while working Americans catch up, we're going to put a temporary cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. People are paying 22%, 25%. It's not fair. We're going to put a temporary cap at 10%. I will settle. The war in Ukraine, oh, what a problem. What a horrible. This is a war that would have never happened. October 7th in Israel would have never happened. But I will end the chaos in the Middle East quickly. And I'm the only one that's going to do this. We have never been so close to World War III as we are right now. We are so close. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But you're very close, and that'll be a war like no other, because I always say it's not going to be two tanks, which, by the way, our country wants to convert to electric. I'm not going to let that happen. They want electric tanks. They don't work well. The battery size is so big, you're going to have to pull a trailer behind the tank. No, can you believe this? They want electric tanks. They don't care. They want to have a nice, free, beautiful for the environment as we blast our way through countries. These people are crazy. They're crazy. You know, they want electric trucks, even though a diesel-fueled truck can go from New York to Los Angeles with plenty of fuel left over. An electric truck, which weighs 2.5 times as much because the battery is so heavy, which takes about half of the payload, in addition to the battery itself, takes half of the payload. It has to stop approximately 6 to 7 times. In the Midwest, you just saw Biden, they built battery chargers, 8 of them. They spent $9 billion on 8 chargers. It's not going to work. And I'm all for electric. And I like Elon Musk. Elon gave me a tremendous endorsement, a very heartfelt endorsement. He feels that if I'm not elected, this country is finished. And he makes a great car, Tesla. He makes a great, great car. But you know what? If people want a Tesla, I think it's great. But they also want to have gasoline-powered cars, which is an advantage for our country because we have more gasoline than any place else. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any place else. If they want a hybrid, and nobody understands that better than Elon Musk, and he makes a great product, but not everybody wants that. They want to have choice. These people want you to go all electric within a very short period of time. Will never work. It'll never be accepted, and it's not being accepted. I will terminate. So I want to thank everybody. And we came down with truckloads of things, and we're going to have that done by Franklin's incredible organization. They've done such a good job. We've done this before, but we have a lot of truckloads of different items, from oil to water to all sorts of equipment that's going to help them. But we're here today to stand in complete solidarity with the people of Georgia and with all of those suffering in the terrible aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene turned out to be a big one, like just about the biggest that anyone's seen. I spoke with all of the relief people, all of the people that do this for a living and do this at least to help